All right, we're back on our FE80 installation. We put it down yesterday, so roughly 18 to 20 hours later. We came back and we took a push broom and broomed up the residual sand and took it to the next step, and we went ahead and used a vacuum to get all that residual sand. By the way, Durman fields a lot of phone calls on putting metallic epoxy over a wood substrate. And as an FYI, this is an excellent foundation for installing metallic epoxy over wood or plywood subbases. So now the next step in our self-leveling epoxy is to apply the E10, and we're going to put the self-leveling additive into the E10. So let's talk about the mixture ratios, and we're going to start with part A, and we're going to go ahead and tint the part A with the epoxy color pack. Refer to the Durman Tech data sheet for the dosage rates if you're mixing smaller batches of pigment. So this is a 4-to-1 ratio, mix ratio. We're going to pre-tint the E10A side, and then we're going to put 4 parts of the A to 1 part of the B. And as a general rule, a lot of people will ask the question, how much of the filler or the powder do we put into the mix? And as a general rule, basically it's going to be for a gallon of mixed A and B, you're going to put 1 gallon of filler, and that is going to be your self-leveling epoxy base. We'll get busy on the mixing aspects of this product, and then we'll show you how it goes down. We're going to be using a 16th-inch gauge rake to install it. You can gauge rake it because it is self-leveling, but just kind of watch how the material lays down. If you're getting minor pinholing, you might want to go ahead and just do a back roll. It's not mandatory, but if it does get pinholing or outgassing bubbles, go ahead and back roll it. So we're going to start off by mixing the pigment pack into the A side. We mixed our pigment pack into the A side of the Perdure E10 for 1 minute, and now we're going to weigh out 1 gallon of the pre-tinted A side. Again, here, try not to get it on the side of the 5-gallon bucket. So that was 2 quarts. And an additional 2 quarts, which of course is 1 gallon of A side. Now we're going to mix the B side. So it's a 4-to-1 mix ratio, so we have 4 quarts. And now we're going to mix the B side. We're going to mix that A-B mixture for approximately 1 minute, and then we're going to start slowly adding the filler into the mix after 1 minute of mixing time. You can expect, depending on the temperature, the substrate temperature, and the ambient temperature, 15 to 20 minutes of pot life with this mixture. All right, we've mixed our A-B together. We've mixed it for 1 minute, and now we're going to add our filler. To recap, it's a 4-to-1 mix ratio, so we have a gallon and a quart, and basically now we're going to add our filler into that mixture. A word of caution, for the video purposes, we can't wear the mask because I can't talk, so it is a good idea to wear a mask to protect yourself. So I'm going to slowly add this in, and then we're going to mix mix for an additional minute, and then we'll show you how to put the material down. We have a combined mixture time of 3 minutes of all the components, and it's time to put it down. And you can see this is a nice film build for our self-leveling epoxy. Thank you. All right, we're getting towards the end of our application here. We made 2 batches to cover this area, and it is important that when you dump, you always want to dump your batch into the wet material. I don't want to have to pull it from a dry spot back into the wet, so dump wet into wet. And gauge rake. And I'm making an observation as I'm gauge raking this up. I'm looking back, and it's totally self-leveling. This might be an indicator where I choose to not back roll. If I saw some pinholing or excessive bubbles, that's where I would just hit it real quick once with a back roll. Hello, I'm Bob Harris. Through the years, the coatings industry certainly has evolved, and as part of that evolution was the introduction of polyaspartic coatings. Duraman's version of that is Perdure P72, which is a 2-component 72% solids polyaspartic, and they also have a higher solids version, which is Perdure P90, which of course is 90% solids. It's a simple mix ratio. It's 1 part A to 1 part B. Also, you have the ability to tint the material. This is the Duraman tint pigment, and you would refer to the Duraman technical data sheets for the mix ratios. Once this material is mixed, you have approximately 15-minute working life on the material to roll it down. It's an excellent product. It's UV stable, so there are some scenarios where people would use it outside. Garage coatings, for example, where the garage door opens up, it's not going to fade or yellow over time. So it's an excellent product. It's extreme abrasion resistance, chemical resistance, and scratch and scuff resistance as well. All right, we're back over on our SL self-leveling epoxy system, and what we've done, we've come back the following day, and we've sanded it with a screen. We're using a 120 grit sandpaper. On a small area, you can use a palm sander as well, which works very effectively. But the key, whether you're using a palm sander or a sanding screen on a rotary buffing machine, is to make sure that surface is ultra clean. So what most installers will do is they'll do a solvent spray and wipe. So while one person is spraying solvent such as acetone, one person is wiping right behind them to get any residual dust. And then we move on to the next step, which is the application of the Perdure P72. All right, we're getting ready to coat our SL self-leveling epoxy system. We're going to be using Perdure P72. A couple of observations. We previously mentioned that we screen sanded this, and we have a great surface that's really free of blemishes. In the event you had pinholing or outgassing bubbles, you would need to repair those prior to putting on the top coat. In this case, the top coat is clear, although you can pigment it. If you have voids or larger voids or holes, you would have to get a Carbondo, for example, which is very rapid drying, and then you would palm sand that to fill those. Also, depending on the severity of the outgassing or pinholing, as we mentioned, we can tint this material. So that would be another way to make it monochromatic and uniform in appearance. I've heard of scenarios where clients, the contractor puts the material down and it's a light gray, for example, and then the client says, well, it's not dark enough. In that event, you would have to completely sand it and make that surface dull where there's no sheen or no shine to it whatsoever, solvent wipe it, and then of course you could recoat with a different color if that was the option. So we're going to go ahead and mix. It's a 1-to-1 mix ratio, so we're going to put part A, and then we're going to mix for about 2 minutes. And then using a 1/4-inch nap roller, we're going to go ahead and roll the material down on our SL system. Again, just to recap, this is an excellent product for abrasion resistance and scuff and scratch resistance as well. Although you should always delint your roller, the most important time to do that is right now with the top coat. So we want to make sure that we get any unwanted lint that would otherwise end up on our floor. Now this is a 1/4-inch nap roller, so we're not getting a lot of lint, but it's still a good idea to go ahead and do this. One of the advantages of the Polyaspartic, the Perdure P72, is the quick turnaround. You could have clients with light traffic get on that surface in about 4 to 6 hours, depending on humidity and ambient temperatures. All right, Douglas is rolling down the Perdure P72. As an option, some contractors prefer to put an anti-skid or non-slip additive, and most often what they use is a 240 aluminum oxide, which is excellent for slip resistance, but also for increased abrasion resistance. It gives you a very, very durable wear surface. That completes the application on our SL self-leveling epoxy with the Perdure P72 polyaspartic sealer. A couple of tips. You may want to use an 18-inch roller on larger projects for efficiency. Also, remember this is a fairly rapid setting material, so it's a great idea to have a couple of roller covers lined up ready to go, because I've seen where once you start rolling, and if you're using that same roller cover from the first batch and you're into it, say 10 minutes, the material from the first batch is starting to set up on the roller cover. So always change out and have fresh roller covers.